Good morning. Welcome to AardvarkJoke episode 4. This is growing legs like an aardvark or a millipede or essentially any animal that isn't a worm, really. Yeah. Mr.
Or a
Peterson,
fish.
how are you? What have you been up to this week?
I'm all right. I've been playing Countdown at home using letters out of an alphabetti spaghetti tin.
And this week's topic that we're going to try and write a joke out of is real advice. Because I think there's a lot of rubbish advice out there. As always, we see how the episode goes. You might go, this is a terrible writing topic, and we'll switch it halfway through to, I don't know, humorous bits of the human body and it'd be like really lowbrow comedy from the mid-70s, which is no longer funny. But genuinely, I'll sum up this. The inspiration for this, I was driving along in my car on the road.
Nice.
Within the speed limit. And I don't know why, but I just remembered there's a joke I'm convinced it's Everybody Hates Chris. Remember the sort of semi-autobiographical TV show that Chris Rock did? And he's talking about one of his experiences when I think he's in school, and it's either a careers officer person or a policeman is in giving them a talk, and he's, I don't know, 10, 11, however old he is in the show. And obviously the joke is, because it's Everybody Hates Chris, but I think he's in like an entire class of white kids, and the policeman looks at him specifically. I used to love that TV show back when it was on. It was on other stuff in America, but UK was on Channel 5 back in the day.
Oh.
And the policeman says to him, "Stay in school, kid. He'll keep you out of jail." And the voiceover goes, "Yeah, that's not breaking the law," which is
better advice.
Which I think is brilliant. I mean, I would pick a slight issue with Chris Rock there, but actually breaking the law and going to jail are almost uncorrelated. It's being convicted of a crime and going to jail, which are the things which are much more highly correlated. However, it took me about 15 years to realise that criticism.
Realise that level of semantics, yeah.
Yeah, well, what is a very good joke. It just got me thinking, and I don't know why it just hit me while I was driving along, but it did. And I just thought, there is so much rubbish advice out there. What it is, really wishy-washy stuff. I want factual advice, like simple do's and don'ts. Basic stuff. Do always put in a bar of soap in the little bag of toiletries and stuff that you take when you go to a hotel or go and stay over at a friend's house. Because one day your shower gel is going to crack and it's going to leak everywhere. It's incredibly annoying. And it's not that I find myself, when you wash yourself with a bar of soap, it also feels slightly dry. You don't necessarily have that delicious, whatever the delicious smell that the shower gel advertises, such as wake you up or put you asleep or be alert.
Or be a continent.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Smell like Antarctica, as you've made full of penguins. But there's so much advice there, which is rubbish. Always work hard. But that's not necessarily true. Like, there's plenty of times you get given an absolutely asinine job.
Yeah.
And it's a complete waste of your time.
And if you work too hard and you don't have anything else to do afterwards, you're going to be bored.
Yeah.
Pace yourself.
Or you work really hard on something that you know is nonsense, and then the organisation goes, "Yeah, but this is really good. We need more of this." Like, hang on, I'm being punished here for working hard. Like at primary school, and if you finished the work early, you got given more work to do as stretch goals. Like, this is a mugs game. Obviously, you might be thinking that's just a general talking point, but there's specific things which are, good advice.
Yeah.
Don't ever mention that you've been browsing someone's holiday Facebook photos.
No.
It's incredibly seedy. People get very upset by it.
Also, cheap white wine, disgusting. Cheap red wine, drinkable.
Very good point. Unless, of course, you're having it with fish, and if you drink red wine with fish, you'll probably just be done in by the culinary police. Gordon Ramsay will come around your house, so that the wine is raw. It's just grapes, and it'll just knock you out.
Yeah, I'll tell him to take a chill pill, which would be terrible advice.
Yeah, I just thought, obviously, that kind of the
good advice. If Gordon Ramsay comes to your house, don't open the door.
That's probably the simplest solution. Yeah.
Yeah. Open an upstairs window and tell him politely that he's trespassing on your property, and if he continues, you'll have to phone the police.
But I just think
Actual good advice.
Actual good advice, yeah. Because there's a lot of stuff here, which is obviously we try and keep this podcast as family friendly as you can for writing adult jokes for an adult environment. But that's more. I've almost find it's more of a challenge for you and me as the participants and the producers in that. It's an extra
Wait,
challenge.
this is produced.
In the loosest sense.
Okay.
I edit out the pauses. But like obviously the Facebook stuff. Yeah, this is going to be the most adult episode so far because we're verging on creepy / weirdo behaviour. But I still think it's valid because there will be someone who, is currently 13 and is going to make that mistake when they're 16 or 17.
Well, it's not going to be Facebook, is it? Granddad.
Well, whatever kids are using these days, Fortnite or something.
Yeah.
But or an Atari. I don't know, whatever. But like someone is either going to make a mistake either because they are genuinely a very odd bloke, or because they just get nervous. It's like, like school reunions is always a classic one. Like, I haven't seen you for 2 years when you bump into someone when you're 20. It's like, how was Italy? And you're like, what? And it's actually quite easy to do because, like, if you're really thick, it's hard to do because you can't remember anything. But if you've got like a normal memory, you probably do remember like bits you see on your Facebook.
Humble brag there, calling yourself not thick.
Well, I don't know how to brag, but I'm in the top 99%. So, yeah, like
that's a man who never did any extra work at primary school.
It shows. Mum will be so disappointed. I guess school alumni suppliers are out on our list of potential sponsors for the podcast now. But yeah, I just thought there must be something out there. I'm not saying that I've come to this episode of the podcast with a joke already done, but the Facebook stalker thing is, I think that would get a laugh. But I feel like the pinnacle, like the thing to do is to either set that as for the joke writers, either set that as for the opening point, and then go up to something which is genuinely like an intellectual comment, but it's like in the complete opposite direction. It's like really family friendly, but it's genuinely good advice that people always say all sorts of nonsense about. Or to kind of ramp up to, so it starts off as you put some soap in your wash bag. And it sort of slowly goes downhill as the advice gets always more and more appropriate, but like less and less useful and more and more seedy.
And slightly too specific as well.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of underlying joke of, wouldn't it be bad if someone was to do this particularly odd incident? Imagine it was Tuesday the 27th of October 2008 and you said this. Like that's the alternative way I think of finishing the joke. Because on that particular day this doesn't go down well. I think those are the kind of the two.
I like the ramp up to it because that's a good crowd pleaser, and also from a purely admin podcast sense, we've got the easier job now because we've done the hard bit.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
So we've got a start of always take some soap, and then I guess somewhere in the middle we got the thing about some wine.
Yeah, which is true because also I think we can probably stick in the either red wine with fish or the kind of flip reverse of that joke, which would be white wine with.
And we've also covered
red meat or something.
What to do if Gordon Ramsay comes to your house.
Yeah.
Other bits of like, you see, like sensible advice, like stop, look, listen, live. Bit samey, but it does work. But occasionally you can just look and listen. And you don't need to stop.
The one I kind of want to squeeze into this is, and you've heard me go off on many a rant about this, I think, in the non-podcast environment. But the bit of advice that always, and it might actually be really good advice, it just annoys me personally, is if I was to say to you, Mr. Peterson, swans, and I can only have a bit of poultry, you might be inclined to go, oh, they can break your arm. And I'll go, oh, that's handy. That's really good advice, actually, because people always say look both ways before you cross the road. Because we've all known people who've been sadly involved in road traffic collisions. And of course, because everyone always goes, "Oh, they can break your arm." And of course, we know, I mean, hundreds, if not tens of thousands of people who've had their arm broken by a swan. If anything,
A&Es are full of them.
The NHS is plagued by swan-based violence. And it just really, I don't know why it irrationally was out. Like, swans, oh, they can break your arm. I think it's because it's often delivered in the same kind of verbal tone as people trying to sound like they're really smart. Like, oh, I know what a swan is. And well, congratulations, because they look so similar to.
But evidently, they don't know what a swan is, because predominantly swans water-based, water and air-based. They are birds that live on the water but can fly. Humans, predominantly land-based.
Do you think that's the issue, that they're getting swans and road traffic collisions? Stop.
Maybe that's the joke. Maybe we just not overthought it. Just say terrible advice, and really, actually, maybe phrase the joke this way: that it's when you've got to think about the person giving you advice as well. So if someone is giving you advice and they're going, "Well, we've got to be careful of swans; they can break a man's arm," you just got to go, "Well, are you an idiot?"
Unless that's like the way of maybe we're coming at this in an entirely wrong direction. Let's say I knew something absolutely horrendous was going to happen at work, like, I don't know, like not Chernobyl, but, you know, pretty bad.
Like the photocopy is going to run out of paper and there's not going to be any stores, supplies anywhere.
Yeah, it's Friday afternoon, the cupboard's out of, you know, inventory holdings, whatever it is. And you've got to print off 1,000 leaflets for 9 o'clock Monday morning.
Yeah.
I'll go, "Oh, by the way, boss, I don't know if you knew, but a swan can break your arm. Also, the printer's just run out of ink." Because at that point, they're going to go, "This person's a complete imbecile. Ignore what you said. Come 8:55 Monday morning." They're like, "Mr. Peterson, did you know the printer's out of ink?" I go, yeah, I told you at, you know, 16:35 on Friday afternoon. They'll be like, "Oh, you did? Oh, you've absolutely swindled me." So you lulled me into a false sense of security, making me think you were a complete moron.
which is exactly the adult version of not doing extra work at primary school.
It is.
Which I think actually is probably the best joke.
Do you reckon there's legal defences in there? Have you committed mortgage fraud? Well, did you know a swan can break your arm? Also, yes. Like, well, this person's clearly incapable of taking enough responsibility to sign for a 25-year financial product.
I think that's the joke. I think that's the joke.
Cool.
Yeah.
We're going to pause there, and I'm going to have to look through I mean, every week we've done this episode, the notes I scribbled down have got less and less organised.
Okay,
this probably looks like it's been written by a swan with its beak and/or feet.
A swan who is midway through breaking someone's arm.
Yeah, trying to use only one wing. Right, pause. Welcome back to AardvarkJoke, episode 4.
17 hours later.
A lot of people give rubbish advice. You've probably heard this growing up, or even as an adult, when, you know, you still need some advice, but you don't need the same advice that you targeted as a primary school child. Always follow your dreams. Brilliant. Yeah, I'll think about that as I'm driving to work on Tuesday morning. Well, actually, I'll just follow my dreams instead. Or always work hard. That was a good one. Now, as adults, obviously, you know that sometimes you get given absolutely asinine jobs, and working hard is a complete waste of everyone's time and effort, and probably produces extra carbon emissions that didn't need to be there. I always found that was the worst thing was at school. Always work hard. "Oh, miss, I've finished my work." "Oh, well done, little Mr. Peterson," because in this anecdote, you're 6 years old. "Congratulations on finishing the worksheet. Here's the extra worksheet." Oh, hang on, what? Do me a favour, miss. Like, I finished the designated amount of work. Now I should go and run around outside. No, you get rewarded with extra work. Like, it's ridiculous. What I want is simple advice. This is what you should be telling people when they're, you know, at an impressionable age. Simple advice, simple good advice. Like, always put a bar of soap in your wash kit. wash back when you're taking your toiletries to a hotel or whatever, or staying at your grandma's. At some point your shower gel is going to crack and leak, and that's annoying. You've got a bar of soap, you can wash yourself. Easy.
Tick.
Not advice for children, but cheap red wine, very drinkable. Cheap white wine, generally quite bad. But if it's cold, it makes it taste slightly better. So you can probably adjust your price point down as long as they've got a fridge. And if you go around someone who doesn't have a fridge and they say I'm cooking fish, you say, I'm sorry, I've got to leave because I just can't have red wine with fish. I don't know where fish fingers stand on that. But what actually annoys me most, this genuinely annoys me, but, is the advice you get on swans. Like, as soon as you talk about most poultry, flamingos, chickens, pigeons, and like, oh yeah, that's a chicken, it lays eggs, whatever they do, I don't know. I saw a swan the other day, and someone go, "Oh, did you know they can break your arm?" Like, yeah, cheers for that. Like, obviously, the last time I went to A&E when I don't know, had some sort of injury. I was quite dismayed actually, because as I opened the door, thousands of bodies fell out of the sliding doors. All of them victims of swan-based violence. It's an absolute epidemic. Before the NHS was being overrun with viral issues, it was swans that were causing 99% of beds to be filled up. It's absolutely idiotic. I don't know anyone who's ever had their arm broken by a swan. As many biologists have pointed out, swans basically live either in the sky or on the water, and humans, more or less, live on the floor. And those are different things. So we can stay well apart and not be too concerned about it. I think the thing to remember with the swan thing is that it's quite a good way, actually, as an adult, of kind of identifying that you are a bit of an idiot. So you could use it to just disguise the situation. Like, you're about to sign on a mortgage. You're thinking, I'm not sure if this is the best deal. 5 years versus 10 years, tracker versus whatever. You go, just before you sign it, oh, by the way, Mr. Bank Manager, did you know swans can break your arm? Sign. And the manager was sitting there going, when this goes to court, they can't pay. They try and plead insanity. I'm going to have to stand on the witness stand and go, well, they did say a swan can break your arm. So I guess they've sort of proven that they weren't of sound mind at that point. I'm going to have to take it easy. Or maybe the best example, it's Friday afternoon, the printer's run out of ink. You go and check the store cupboard, there's no printer cartridges. You go, oh, bad news, boss. Printer's out of ink. Also, did you know swans, my favourite bits of poultry, ad nauseum. Now at this point, your boss or manager is just going to go, this person's a complete cretin, and ignore everything you've said, because they'll be sitting there like I would be, fuming about the swan-based advice, which is of no use to man or swan. Come in Monday morning, and different manager goes, oh, by the way, did you print off those 50,000 leaflets we needed to distribute at 9 o'clock Monday morning? And go, oh no, I didn't. I told the boss about it. And your boss is going to go, damn, they did it. I've been absolutely rumbled. They're still probably sitting there. They haven't left. They've just been sitting there for 2 days fuming about the swan advice. So I think, and ironically, that's perhaps the ultimate cure for the time that you got served all that extra work at primary school. Had you sat there and gone, oh, miss, I finished my worksheet. Also, did you know cygnets can, break your appendages? Should have gone, just go out, play in the garden, just play in the field, just run around. So I think that's the best advice for everyone is use idiocy to cloak yourself in idiocy, to disguise your idiocy, which is really smart.
Good joke.
This has been AardvarkJoke episode 4, season 1, episode 4. Mr. Peterson, any passing words?
No, goodbye.
Goodbye, and thank you very much for listening. See you again next